Ali, thank you so much for allowing us to come to your offices today.
No problem.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, you've given us a fantastic grand tour. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Just for our audience, we've had a fantastic conversation in terms of obviously your background, and obviously I've been following you for years and years. A little bit about yourself, Pimlico Plumbers, just a bit of a position statement in terms of where your background and your organisation.
Yeah, no problem. Well, my name's Charlie Mullins. Started off as an apprentice, done a 4-year apprentice many years ago. We're now the largest independent plumbing company in the UK. We employ 350 people, turn over 35 mil, and we're a growing company, taking on more and more work in London. Have lots of apprentices on board, and looking to expand the business and continue the successful story that we've got.
Okay, fantastic. Charlie, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about your journey. You've got a fantastic organisation, as you mentioned, very well known in terms of branding and obviously your position in terms of, particularly in terms of the marketplace here. But that story in terms of from a young age going into this sector, would you mind just sharing that journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always wanted to be a plumber. That was in my mind from 9 years of age. And what used to happen, I used to bunk off school and help a local plumber. Yeah. And this plumber, he had a nice car, clothes, money.
It was like a role model to you to a certain extent.
Yeah, exactly, a role model, exactly that. And it was so inspirational. I could see what he had achieved in his life, and the seeds were sown then. Yeah. And I'm now hoping that a lot of people see that in me, that what you can achieve out of it.
So when you left school at the age of 15, you went into the plumbing industry, the sector itself.
That's right, apprentice. But I left at 15, but I always say I should have left at 14. I'm not a great believer that you need to stay on or go to university. Once you know what you want to do and you want to put your mind to it, there's no reason why you can't do that and be successful. And I always say that I should have left school at 14 and just got on with it, because my take on business, the quicker you get involved in it and start making things happen, the better.
Yeah. From the age of 15, what was your sort of first sort of move? Is he working for somebody else?
I've done an apprenticeship at 15, 4 years. And then once I finished my apprenticeship, I became immediately self-employed and started building up a customer base. And and that's a struggle. I mean, let's not kid anyone. Being just self-employed is quite a big move to start with. Yeah. And I've done that for probably 5, 6, 7 years, and was fairly successful. And then I started working in the Pimlico area. And I was offered a 1 room in a basement by an estate agent. Yeah, Pimlico Properties. They offered me this room as an office, and at the time I thought, am I mad? Why does a plumber want an office? That's stupid. I didn't understand that side of it. And anyhow, I took a chance. Something told me. It didn't tell me it was going to lead me where I am today, but something told me
it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, this must be the right thing to do. I don't know what it was. I think it's your gut instinct, and you have to go by that many times. Yeah. And I've got this one office, and had sleepless nights thinking, am I going to pay for it? I've got to get a telephone in, somebody to answer it. And at one time, I was answering the phone and doing the jobs, and and then I sort of outgrew that, I suppose, and the rest just develops. It's like I suppose a 10,000 mile journey. It starts with the first step, and my first step really was an apprenticeship, and then it just goes on and on from there.
Okay. When obviously you set up your business in Pimlico, working in the sort of estate agent's basement or the office there, what was the sector like at that time? Just a little bit of background, because the sector itself, because you've mentioned the fact that it wasn't known as being professional.
Yeah, well, at that time, and it was very much sort of, had a bad stigma about plumbers. They turn up late, arse hanging out of their trousers, scruffy, dirty old van, not being transparent, not finishing the job, not tidying up. So there's all these sort of bad sort of ideas that everybody had about plumbers. And, I just thought to myself, if I do it the right way, then surely that's got to be okay.
So you wanted to professionalise the sort of sector itself?
If I'm being honest, once I got up and running and started deciding that I don't want people telling me, you know, you're not turned up and you've not finished the job and you've charged us too much. So I thought, let's just do it the right way. And I would say to anybody in business, if you do it the right way, there's no reason why it won't be successful. And, you know, so I'd done everything the right way. I come up with a list of things that are wrong in the industry, and then done them the right way, and then I started realising I could sort of change the image of plumbing, because so many other people have copied us now, you know, with the uniform and the identification and smart vans and
the branding and
yeah,
so forth,
exactly, the branding itself, and that's never really been known in the plumbing industry. And but I use the same thing whether you're a plumber, a bricklayer, an accountant, you know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you do it the right way and the best way that you can do it, you know, I'm a great believer that that's the way to be successful.
Okay. I mean, what were your initial early challenges? I mean, you meant, I mean, I've read somewhere the fact that, you know, cash flow, again, you know, some of the things, you know, you talked about running an office and so forth. So just, you know, if you can just share with us your early challenges.
Yeah, well, the early challenges in business are the same today, you know, cash flow, you know, trying to get the work in, trying to please the customers, and probably the biggest hurdle you come across in business, I believe, is employing people. You know, but I'm a great believer that if you don't employ people, you're not going to be successful. You know,
there's no, you know, you can't scale the business in terms of, you know,
I mean, as a plumber or one individual, you can do well and you'll earn a great living. But the way to be, you know, financially successful, you have to employ people.
Okay.
And one of the biggest problems in business is employing people.
In terms of rules and regulations, or is that in terms of finding people or sort of stuff?
I wouldn't say it's the rules and regulations, because, you know, we have to go by them. But it's all about quality of people. And you find that anyone who's got a business, it's not them on their own. You know, Pimlico Plumbers is built up of 350 people, and we're as good as the people that work for us. And that's the same in any business. So when you start employing people, then that's the change of where you're heading for, and you've got to go through, you know, often so many bad people to get the right ones. But the good news is there's lots of good people out there.
There are good
lots
people
of good people out there.
I mean, how do you actually grow a culture of an organisation, Charlie? I mean, obviously, you know, as being as a sort of a small organisation, it's slightly easier. You know, you're with the initial sort of staff, but when you've scaled the business to, you know, 350 people, and you're still growing at a fast pace, and you've got, you know, fantastic ambitions there. How do you sort of keep that culture and grow that and cultivate that culture?
Yeah, well, obviously, you know, to run any business, you've got to be motivated. You've got to have a lot of inspiration. Whether you look at someone else, whether you get information off of websites, whether you you know, read books on business.
Constantly learning, developing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody learns from somebody, you know, and I'd like to think that as much as this first plumber that, you know, got me on the road to starting, you then look at other businesses, and you know, it doesn't have to be the same business. You just think, oh, I like their uniform. Oh, I like the way their invoice are.
Be inspired by certain people.
That's it.
Be able to.
I think on the way, you know, you can't. All our ideas today are not really new ideas. They've been around forever. We just reshape them up. So, you know, I'd say to anybody running a business, you know, if you meet people or go somewhere, you know, pick up on an idea. I mean, here's an example. I was flying to America. I was on American Airlines. We land in Las Vegas, I think, and over the tannoy, the pilot says, you know, really thanks for flying with us, etc. And without your business, we wouldn't have a business. And we now use that on Pimlico. Nothing to do with plumbing or anything, but I thought it was a great bit of talking, you know. So you could just be out any day, you hear something, and if it fits in your business,
you can take inspiration ideas from anything.
That's what I'm saying, you know, things are out there. It's all about being alert and you've also got to be brave enough to try different things. And, you know, don't go with the flow of everybody, just use your own imaginations. But the best way to run a business is by your own instinct.
Oh, fantastic. There's a quotation that I just love, Charlie, that, you know, you talk about drinking from the same teapot. And I've started using that as well myself in the last sort of week, and you know, when I was doing some research for this, and I thought that's just a fantastic quotation. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what your thoughts were?
Yeah, well, look, the reason what was behind that, you know, I get asked so many questions about business and staff, and Ed, you get them motivated. Ed, you know they're good. Ed, they're this, Ed, they're that. Ed, you know he's going to be a good engineer. You know, and I said the important thing that the people around you all got to be drinking from the same teapot. And you know, that's not over difficult. You know, I'm probably trying to say if you know, if they're not sitting down with you and drinking from the same teapot, and they're somewhere over there and they're drinking coffee and they're in another world, then it's no good. You know, the one thing about any business is you've got to build a team around you. And so I think it's a very basic saying, drinking from the same teapot. And I often get so many people, and I have to say to them, well, we're obviously not drinking from the same teapot on this, and that's the time to come away from them people.
Fantastic. Charlie, I mean, read recently in terms of obviously, you know, the changes taking place with Europe, with, you know, with Brexit and so forth. You spoke earlier on about, you know, skill shortages and the fact that there are good people out there. I mean, are you affected by Brexit as well in terms of your business, in terms of the people that you employ and you know, the people that you also associate yourself with, other business owners? Well, you know, is that affecting?
You know, I was a Remainer and I backed Gina Miller on the Remainer campaign, which we won at the High Court, that, you know, the government has to get involved. You know, I'd rather us be staying in the EU. The fact that we're going to be leaving, I think we just got to make the best job of it. But I honestly believe it affects the economy, and if it affects the economy, it affects everybody. I don't employ that many people from the EU, but in the same token, you know, London does, and, you know, if London suffers, we all suffer. You know, I think it's the wrong move to be leaving, but in the same token, you know, we're a nation that has to just get on with it and make the best of it. You know, I think it's going to affect everybody. It won't, I don't think, you know, it's going to affect my workforce, but it may affect, you know, how I get the supplies here. Certainly, a lot of our materials have already gone up that we get from Germany. You know, that's already gone up. Fuel's gone up. So we're affected. We are affected, not from the staff point of view, but just from a economic
trade and so forth, and economy and so forth. Okay. Just, I mean, you're one of the very few, in my opinion, entrepreneurs out there that's quite open about, you know, politics, and, you know, you have a viewpoint on that, you know, and so there's a lot of business owners that tend to sort of say, well, business isn't, whatever my view is, it's my personal belief. What's your thoughts in terms of, obviously, you know, you are fairly open about, you know, your
I'm known as very controversial, argumentative, opinionated, but there's nothing wrong with that. You know, in business, I mean, successful people don't sit in a corner and say nothing. You need to be heard, and you know, if you're heard for the right reasons, that's it. We all have a view and an opinion, and if I'm being honest, I just work off of common sense. You know, I ain't that academic, but being in the business world is an education. You know, what I realise that what you don't learn at school, you learn in the workplace, and every day it's just an education. So, you know, you don't have to have graduate thing and diplomas and all these exam things when you leave school. What you need is common sense and inspiration and willpower to want to be successful.
There's another quotation I'm sure which you talk about. Common sense is not that common, unfortunately.
That's right. Yeah.
And I love that in terms of, you know, that's the reality as well.
Well, that's right, because look, you can get sort of a graduate in, and he's, you know, had X amount of experience in whatever he's done. He comes in here and, you know, he couldn't even make a cup of tea. You know, or do his shoelace up or something, you know. So the most important thing is getting in the workplace and getting experience in the workplace. You know, all the exams and things in the world. But I'm not saying they're not needed. Of course they're needed in certain jobs.
Some balances and sometimes,
You know, if you're a doctor, accountant, banker, finance, of course you need all them things. But if you just want to have a good business and earn loads of money, all you need is common sense.
Common sense, yeah.
And it ain't that common.
And it's not that common, yeah. I mean, I mean, you mentioned as well, business is not rocket science. I mean, common sense is not, you know, it's not that common. You've got a book out, bog standard business as well. Tell us a little bit about, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, I started off as a plumber, and what am I doing? All of a sudden, I bring a book out, you know. But so many people was copying our ideas and coming on for information, and, you know, which ain't a problem, because, you know, we've all got to put something back into society, and I think that, you know, if you're lucky enough to have picked things up and it's done you good, then pass them on. So all of a sudden someone comes up with an idea to do a book, it's autobiography, and but then it moves on to quite a few business tips in it. And again, I have to be honest, it's very much common sense of how to run a business.
I mean, I've read some of those in terms of, you know, some sort of seven sort of themes and various other things where, you know, I think leaders and managers can actually actually can take value from that, can learn from that as well.
Yeah, probably the difference I'm going to say with myself is that compared with a lot of so-called entrepreneurs out there, is that they haven't really done the journey.
Yeah.
You know, they've either been inherited money or inherited a business or got involved with it. But, you know, if somebody wants to start afresh from leaving school to where I am today, then, you know, I believe the book will help you on your way. But let's not kid anyone. Any business, there's sleepless nights. Are we going to have enough money for food? Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to get paid here? I mean, let's not kid anyone. Business is not an easy journey. But what I would say, once you do get there, there's no business like your own business. Do you like that one?
Yeah, I love that one. Charlie, I mean, you talked about role model earlier on. You talked about learning from each other. I mean, how, you know, business owners, I mean, you know, there's different ways of learning. It's not always about school or going to art classes and so forth. You know, you yourself picking ideas and, you're looking at magazines and various other things, and you know, you're aware and you're conscious about these things and you're picking these things up. But, you know, what's your thought about in business owner maybe hiring or working with a mentor or a coach just to sort of, you know, make, you know, possibly, you know, escalate their business or give them...
Well, of course. I mean, you know, let's not kid anyone. All them facilities are out there now. There's some great courses available, great mentors that can pass all this on. And it doesn't matter where you learn it from a course, from a mentor, from a book, from
YouTube, you know,
walking down the street, you know. It's all, look, you know, there's another saying out there, a day without learning is a day wasted.
Yeah, every day is a school day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't matter where you pick it up from, but my take, you know, there's so many great courses out there, so many sort of mentors out there these days, so many entrepreneurs that are willing to pass it on. And, you know, if you can't get anything out of listening to somebody, you know, watching them doing something and explaining something, then you need to not be in business.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, you know, business is going really well. You've got, you know, ambition there as well. But you know, you've been involved now with sort of giving back time as well. You know, you're doing a lot of work with entrepreneurs, encouraging them. You're doing a lot of work with young people, and just a little bit about your sort of involvement in terms of community initiatives and encouraging others. If you don't mind sharing that.
Well, so again, as you're in business, the longer you're in business, the more you learn. And you know, a lot of people have helped me on the way. You know, and then, you know, you start putting a bit back. So we bring colleges here, local schools, charities, Princess Trust, various and even business people and tradespeople. So we actually do a Pimlico tour here, and you know, people pay for this tour and we give the money to a charity, a local girl who's unfortunately got cancer. Yeah. And we'll take people around their building for a few hours and have lunch and give them a book and answer some questions and give anyone the advice we can. But what we're finding is that, you know, it's very, very sort of helpful to a lot of people to come in the workplace and to see how we operate. It can be very inspirational just walking around somebody's premises and pick up what you pick up. You know, I had probably 15 business guys here, you know, the last tour, and they're in the same trade, plumbing and heating, and they're all up and running and they've got reasonable sized business, but obviously they want to improve on that. They came round here and they was over the moon, and they picked up, you know, whether it be pictures on the wall, whether it be settees in your office, canteen, or even basic things in the workshop. You know, if you can, you know, you've got to be able to pick these ideas up. We all learn from someone and somewhere, and that's the way to learn. So doing the tours, I think, is very, very helpful.
Yeah, yeah. How has business changed? I mean, I'm talking about, obviously, you know, we're now sort of, we're in a completely different era to when you started. You know, you've had to sort of change and adjust with technology, with how people do things, how people buy things, people's expectations. Just in terms of, you know, where are we now and where do you feel the future is, and how have you adjusted in terms of change?
Okay, well, look, I'm not that technical on computer, and I could just about switch one on, but I've got enough brains to employ people that can do unbelievable things with computers. So what I've learned in business, as changes have come about, you bring in the right people. You know, you bring in you know, I suppose the word is like you put a structure in place. You know, it's so important to have a management or manager in every department, and you learn to delegate. You know, I mean, you know, I can't hardly turn a computer on, but I can talk to people, I can delegate, I can explain what I want
your own
doing.
skill set as well.
And these people are qualified people and good at it. So, you know, I don't think it's technology. there's always people that go with it.
Yeah.
But the end result is, I think it's all about delegating and trusting people and letting them get on with the job. And you've got to be able to do that because there's some great people out there, you know, that can do all these things you want. It's all about trust and delegation.
Okay. And what about the future for Pimlico in terms of, you know, where we are now and your ambitions? You know, how, you know, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
We're going to take on more of the market share in London, undoubtedly, and in the next 5 years. And, you know, 3 to 4 years from now, we'll have a much bigger share in London, and you know, possibly even going to go national. I mean, I've never wanted to go national, but I'm thinking now, you know, we have a great brand. You've got to think big in business. You've got to be inspired by something, and you know, we're taking on more and more good people. The company's growing. You know, the longer you're in business, the sort of easier it becomes. Even though business ain't easy, it becomes easier and more enjoyable. And you know, I'm going to go back to that saying, you know, there's no business like your own business.
Just if you can, just a little bit of, you know, words of advice for business owners first, and then some words of advice for young people starting off their sort of journey.
Well, business owners, I mean, you're already up and running, and you obviously know what you're doing because you want to be there. Yeah. And I think it's just a case of, you know, the longer you go, the better it becomes. And I think the other thing is, you know, you've got to employ more people. You know, the more people you can employ, that is the way forward. And I'm going to use that other word. You know, I'm a great believer of managers. You know, great believer of. I mean, I have a manager in every department: a canteen manager, accounts manager, estimating manager, call centre manager, car wash manager, transport manager, mechanical manager, managers out on the field. So you've got to put someone in charge of running each little department. You can't do it all. And you know, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but in early or late 80s, we nearly went bust because of recession. I was trying to do everything myself. And, you know, I went to see 2 liquidators. I was going to lose my house. And then it was crystal clear to me I wasn't doing it right. And, you know, because I thought I could do everything myself. The biggest mistake in business is trying to do too much. And, you know, I have to keep saying it. I've got great people out there, or there is great people out there, you know. Give them a job, give them a responsibility. If they're no good, move them on. But once you get good people around you, you need a good team around you.
A lot of business owners can't seem to let go. They keep thinking, you know what?
Exactly.
That seems to be the problem with a lot of owners.
Well, and they are right there, and I've experienced that myself. When I was doing plumbing, you know, all I ever wanted to be was a plumber. Never wanted to come off the tools. And then all of a sudden, I'm in an office. And I was like a tiger in a cage. Yeah. You know, but the end result is, you know, it's like, you know, the captain can't steer the ship and feed the boiler. So you've got to work out what's the best one. Look, we're all good at something. And once you realise what you're good at, then stick with that. But don't try and be good at everything. But I'm telling you now, any business, the way forward is to employ people, put management in place and delegate. Okay,
fantastic. So some words of sort of advice for young people out there, maybe in their sort of journey of leaving school, maybe you've done A-levels in terms of, you know, career paths and so forth.
Yeah, well, look, anybody leaving school or just left, you know, and all that, you know, things are, there's a lot more help out there today. My first bit of advice I'm going to give to anybody, which I've done myself, is do an apprenticeship. You know, I was told 50 odd years ago, you know, if I do an apprenticeship, don't matter what it is in, you know, I'm going to earn lots of money and never be out of work, and that's correct. And I say that to people now. You do an apprenticeship, there's no reason why you won't earn lots of money and never be out of work. Apprenticeship is as good as a degree. You can take it anywhere in the world and get work. Lots of people do an apprenticeship and run their own business. Now, if you're fortunate enough to get an opportunity, do an apprenticeship. If you're not fortunate enough, then still, you know, go and get trained. You need to learn a skill, and whether it be at a college or on courses or from a mentor, learn something that's going to take you, you know, for the rest of your life. And, you know, there's lots of help out there, so it's very important to get something behind you. And, you know, and then it's really up to you once you've got that, because the opportunities are out there. You know, people often say to me, "Oh, I'm not going to be as successful as you, Charlie." And I say, "But why?" It's a level playing field out there now. It's a level playing field, and it's up to you. Look, you can be rich or poor out there. it's really your choice.
It's a mindset,
exactly, it's your mindset.
It's a mindset.
I mean, all I ever wanted to be was a plumber. This wasn't meant to be like this, but once you start seeing an opportunity, you're thinking, well, there's a weakness here in this plumbing business. Let's do this, and this, and it builds up from there. Obviously, you know, we always say to everybody, you've got to be confident and sure of yourself, but of course you've got to believe in yourself. But in the same token, you know, you're going to get so many things wrong, you're going to get so many knockdowns, but, you know, it's like a boxer. If you go down, you have two choices. Stay down, you've lost. Get up, you may win the fight. And that's like business. So you will take a few knocks and kicks, but believe me, once you get it going, it's just better and better, and then you thrive on that. But I would say, as I say to a lot of people, there ain't no reason why you can't be successful. You know, especially from school age. I'm going to say that because, you know, you've got it all in front of you. If your business is already up and running, there's no reason why you can't be successful. That, you know, all you got to do at sometimes is do a bit more, believe more in yourself, and maybe less talk and more action.
Mm-hmm. It's all about the action, isn't it? I mean, it is the action.
Well, of course, you know, but it's, you know, if I'm being honest, you know, I think that the problem we have as a nation is we don't
armchair sort of critics.
We're not confident enough with ourselves, and we don't think big. And I think you need to think big.
Charlie, fantastic nuggets of gold that you've shared with us today. It's been very enjoyable in terms of us seeing your offices, and thank you for your hospitality. You're a true gentleman. Really, thank you so much for your time.
I'm glad we're drinking from the same teapot.
Thank you so much, Charlie.